Have you ever heard a story about a prince and a princess that seemed too good to be true? Usually, we think of these stories as being full of magic and love. But sometimes, behind the pretty dresses and big smiles, there are secrets that nobody was ever supposed to find. Imagine if you were a prince and you thought you found your perfect partner. You think you met by a lucky accident. But then, you start finding out that maybe it wasn't an accident at all. You start seeing pictures and reading messages that show your wife might have had a very different life before she met you. You find out she was hanging out with people who were not very nice, and that her fancy trips and clothes were paid for by people you didn't know. This is what happened to Prince Harry. He started to look at his own life like a detective. He looked at old photos, he talked to people who knew secrets, and he even listened to old phone messages from his brother that he had ignored before. He began to realize that the person he loved might have been part of a big, complicated plan to get close to the royal family. This made him feel very sad and confused. It's like finding out a movie you love was actually a trick. This story is about how the happily ever after started to feel like a big mistake, and how the truth can sometimes be very hard to hear. This picture cannot be used or sold because it causes a lot of trouble for Meghan Markle. The reason these photos are so bad for her is because they show her with a man named Jeffrey Epstein. Now, everyone knows for sure that she was really there with him. This is a big deal because he was a man who did many bad things, and she does not want people to know she knew him. There are other people who were part of that same group of friends, like Virginia Roberts and John Lee. Meghan's own friends used to call her a yacht girl. This is a name for someone who goes on big, expensive boats to meet rich and powerful men. It looks like she was part of that world for a long time. People say she was making secret deals with Jeffrey Epstein for a while. She was traveling to New York City very often. She stayed in New York for a whole month in September 2013. During that same month, Prince Andrew was also in New York. She wanted to make sure nobody could find any holes in the story she was telling everyone. She tried very hard to make sure her story sounded perfect, even though it was easy to see that things were not quite right. There were stories about her being on fancy boats and having secret memberships to clubs. Prince Harry finally found out about Meghan's secret world at a place called Soho House. When he learned the truth, he felt very embarrassed and sad. People wondered where she got all the money to fly in the fancy part of the airplane all over the world. Usually, only very rich people can afford to fly like that. Let me show you another example of why this is so strange. This is a picture of her in the year 2006. This is a photo of her at a party in a place called the Hamptons. Jeffrey Epstein was also known to be in that area. It was a very fancy party for rich people. This was a long time ago, before she was famous. It only took 3 weeks for things to change. It wasn't a big fight where people were screaming at each other. Instead, it was 3 weeks of Prince Harry feeling very sad and not being able to sleep. His perfect fairy tale started to feel like it was going wrong. It was a slow feeling that grew inside him. It happens when you are all alone at night and you are looking at your phone when you should be sleeping. He was looking at things again and again that he was never supposed to look at. He was starting to see the truth. He found out that they were introduced by a friend of a friend. Meghan Markle really wanted to be famous and successful. She wanted to be in the right places where she could meet important people who could help her. People who have never been inside Soho House think it is just a cute cafe with nice lights where artists go to work. That is the story they tell people on the outside, but the real version is very different. Soho House is actually a place where people are sorted out. It is a place where only the right people are allowed to move forward and get big chances. Meghan Markle was not a famous person back then, so she was able to do a lot of things without anyone noticing. She got away with many secrets, but just like a princess in another country named Sophia, her secret world was about to be found out by everyone. The royal family knew about this world. Harry knew about it too, even though he didn't like to talk about it. When he was younger and went to a lot of parties, he saw it all the time. He saw models who never seemed to have a real job and actresses who never seemed to go to auditions. He saw people who were called consultants who had a lot of money but know where they had to be. Everyone acted like this was normal and casual, but Soho House is not a casual place at all. Everything there is done for a reason. There was a man named Richard who thought Meghan was too old for him. He was not interested in her at all, but she made it her goal to make him like her. She didn't give up easily because she wanted to be part of his world. When Harry saw a special bag from Soho House on a boat, he didn't just remember the club. He realized what was happening. This wasn't just a fun vacation. It was a place where every person was put there on purpose to meet someone else. People at these parties were not just having fun. They were trying to get into better positions in life. The man avoided her for a long time until she finally understood that she should move on to someone else. She was always looking for the next big chance. Meghan hadn't just visited these places once or twice. She was very involved in them. She went to these clubs in many different cities and had special memberships. This was very strange. Soho House does not give out memberships to actresses who are struggling to find work just for fun. It is very expensive to be a member there, and they only pick certain people. Most importantly, they pick people who can help them with a plan. There were many other fancy restaurants and clubs involved in this group too. In the year 2019, a big part of that company was sold for a lot of money. Harry started to think about his old memories in a new way. He wondered why Meghan was hanging out with famous people in London long before she had a reason to be there. He wondered why it was so easy for her to meet important people. She always seemed to know the right people, but she never explained how she met them. It all started to feel like it wasn't just good luck. It felt like someone had planned it. It felt like someone had quietly made sure she was always in the right spot at the right time, even before she knew why she was there. That is when Harry really understood. Soho House wasn't just a place she went to, it was the plan itself. And big plans like that don't happen without someone building them. When you look at the connections, you see there is something hidden underneath. A man named Nick Jones started Soho House, and a man named Marcus Anderson was always there too. Marcus Anderson was always said to be a nice person who was stylish and fun. He was the kind of guy who knew everyone. At first, Harry had no reason to think he was doing anything wrong. Many people near the royal family lived that way. But once Harry started looking deeper, Marcus didn't look like just a friend anymore. He looked like a fixer, which is someone who makes things happen behind the scenes. His name came up in many strange stories, along with a rich man named Ron Burkle. At that time, old stories on the internet that were mostly deleted showed a different picture of Marcus. He wasn't just going to parties, he was the one who decided who was invited and where everyone sat. People who knew him said he was a very important person who controlled things. Suddenly, the fact that Marcus was everywhere didn't feel normal to Harry. He was always close by, watching everything. He was never the star of the show, but he was always near the people with power. He was at the wedding, whispering to important bosses. Marcus looked like someone who knew exactly how the story would end. Harry felt a bad feeling in his chest. He realized Marcus didn't just know Meghan, he helped create her world. People started calling Marcus a gatekeeper. A gatekeeper is someone who knows which women are willing to work hard to become famous and which men have the power to change their lives. The more Harry read about it, the worse he felt. Marcus didn't wait for things to happen, he made them happen. Meghan was one of his biggest successes. Harry didn't want to find proof that these bad things were true. He wanted someone to tell him he was just imagining things. He wanted to be told he was wrong, but instead, he got a very long and quiet answer that made him feel uncomfortable. He called someone who used to work at Soho House. That person wasn't surprised by Harry's questions. They just sounded tired. When Harry asked about Marcus, the person didn't say it was a lie. They said the royal family had been waiting for this moment to happen. Back in 2016, Marcus ran what people called a finishing school. It wasn't to teach girls how to be polite. It was to teach them how to get close to powerful people. He would find women who wanted to be famous and teach them exactly how to act and dress. He taught them how to talk to rich men without acting like they were too impressed. He taught them how to move in fancy rooms, and then he would put them in the right places. This was all part of a big, secret plan to help them move up in the world. Soho House wanted people to invest millions of dollars into their business, but the people with the money were worried. One reason they were worried was because of the secret way the club worked. They gave away free memberships to people to make things happen. They would have private dinners and special events that were hard to track. Marcus didn't just introduce people, he put them in the right spot so they would meet naturally. Harry felt sick because Meghan's past didn't feel like a romance anymore. It felt like a play that had been practiced. After that phone call, Harry could see the pattern everywhere. Every memory he had changed. He remembered polo matches and charity events where Meghan was always nearby. She was in his world long before they actually met. Marcus was always there, waiting. The club liked to have actors and artists, but they didn't really like bankers. They wanted to keep control of who was allowed in. The people who wanted to invest money felt like they weren't cool enough for the club, even though the club wanted their money. People started asking how the club really picked its members. They claimed they had a very long waiting list of thousands of people, but that wasn't really true. If you were the right person, you could get in immediately without waiting at all. Marcus knew the names of people who were going to be at parties months before they happened. He knew exactly when to move his friends into those rooms. Harry felt silly because he wanted to believe he was chosen because of who he was, not because of his title. It looked like he was just the final goal of a plan that had been going on for a long time. Once Harry saw that, he couldn't forget it. He stopped being emotional and started looking at the facts. He looked at the money, because money usually tells the truth. There was a story about someone being in the hospital because of bad medicine found on the floor at a party. Harry knew how much money Meghan made from her job as an actress. It was good money, but it wasn't enough to pay for the super expensive life she was living. She was flying all over the world and staying in 5-star hotels. She had a new, expensive outfit for every single event. Harry started adding up the cost of the flights to cities like London, New York, and Miami. The total was a very large amount of money. He guessed she was spending at least $70,000 a year just on these things, and that was a small guess. It didn't even count the fancy jewelry or the gifts. Someone else had to be paying for her life. This was a lifestyle gap, which means she spent way more than she earned. The worst part was that when he asked the question, the answers were too easy to find. Her fancy life never changed, even when she wasn't working much. That isn't how it works for most actors who are struggling. Someone was supporting her climb to the top. Harry didn't tell Meghan what he was doing yet. Instead, he asked some quiet questions to people who knew about Soho House in Toronto. The people he talked to were very careful with their words. When he asked about Meghan's membership, there was a long pause. He found out that Meghan's membership was completely free for 5 whole years. No one ever sent her a bill. When he asked who paid for it, the answer was just, Marcus has ways. This meant it was all handled secretly through the club. Meghan hadn't just been invited, the club had invested in her. Harry felt like something broke inside him. Free memberships were not just nice favors, they were like bets. The club expected to get something back from her, like fame or power. Meghan was being helped by someone with a lot of money while she was trying to get famous. Someone paid for her to become the person she is today. Harry realized he wasn't the start of her story. He was the prize at the end of her plan. Harry started looking at the dates of events from years ago. He saw that Meghan was at many of the same parties as his rich friends and donors. She was always there, but she never stayed too long or did anything that would make people suspicious. The numbers and the dates all lined up perfectly. Her trips to hotels and her fancy clothes were all timed for when important people would be around. This was not just someone spending too much money. It was someone being very careful to be seen by the right people. What bothered Harry the most was that she was near his world for a long time before they met. It felt like she was watching from far away. He realized he didn't just meet her by fate. He arrived exactly where someone else wanted him to be. Harry looked at the guest list for his own wedding. He didn't see it as just a list of names anymore. He saw that many of the people were connected to each other and to Soho House. Marcus Anderson was right there in the front row. Over 60 guests at the wedding were part of that same social group. These were not Meghan's old childhood friends or family. They were people who had watched her climb up to meet a prince. They were the people who helped her get there. Harry felt like the wedding wasn't just about love. It felt like a big win for a group of people who wanted power. He wondered if the people clapping were happy for him, or if they were just happy that their plan had worked out so well. He saw a photo of Marcus and some club bosses looking very happy at the wedding. They looked like they had just finished a very hard job and were proud of themselves. This made Harry feel like his special day was actually just a business deal for them. He realized that while his family was happy for him, this other group of people saw the wedding as a milestone in a plan. It made the memory feel less special. He felt like he had been tricked by people who knew more than he did. Harry found some old phone messages from his brother, William, from 2017. Back then, he had ignored them. William was trying to warn him. He told Harry that the palace workers were worried about Meghan's friends and the places she used to hang out. William wasn't just being mean. He was telling Harry facts that the security teams had found. He was trying to protect his brother. Harry felt very bad because he had been angry at William for trying to help him. He had chosen to believe in love instead of the truth. Harry realized that he wanted someone to love him for just being himself. He didn't want to think that anyone had a plan to meet him. Because he was so lonely, he didn't listen to the warnings. He deleted the messages instead of reading them carefully. Now he couldn't sleep because he was thinking about every memory again. He wondered if the jokes they shared and the times they had fun were all part of her act. He felt like he wasn't sure who he was anymore. The truth didn't go away. It kept whispering to him that Meghan didn't just find him by accident. She had moved toward his world on purpose. This changed how he felt about everything they had done together. He remembered how Meghan got very angry about certain stories in the news. She didn't like people talking about her past. She wanted to control what everyone thought of her, but the truth was starting to come out anyway. Inside the palace, everyone was starting to worry. The people who worked there were being very quiet and closing doors. They were afraid because the secrets were very big. If people found out that Meghan was linked to bad people, it would hurt the whole royal family. Every old story was being looked at again. Harry realized that his wish to be loved had made him blind to what was happening. He didn't want to see that he was part of someone's plan, but now he can see the truth clearly. Secrets like these do not stay hidden forever. They are like a balloon that gets too much air and finally pops. Harry has to live with what he knows now. His fairy tale has changed forever, and there is no way to go back to how things were before.